What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the vlog. This is going to be day number 14 and 15 in Texas. That's right, this is going to be a mega vlog. I put 2 sessions together. I played on the live stream. It was insane. So let's get right into it. Let's go, buddy. We have 1 week left on our trip here in Dallas. We make our way over to Poker House to play on the live stream game. It's 1-2 $500 cap. We're in for $500. Fortunately, there weren't many interesting hands to go over. We are going to look at this one hand, though. The straddles have been flying. So this one is a 1, 2, 5, 10, 20. And guess who's on the $20 straddle? It's me. There's 5 limps over to me. So 5 people called $20, and I look down at ace 8 of spades. Seems like a beautiful squeeze spot to me. Nobody has shown any signs of strength, and it's a perfect time to take down all the dead money. So I put in the squeeze to $175. Folds around to Jake in the small blind, and he decides to shove his stack in my face. And when the action makes its way over to me, this is a really weird spot because he was the 3rd limper in the small blind. If he had a strong hand like ace jack plus or a big pair, it would seem like he would want to raise and build the pot. So when he over limps and then back jams my squeeze, it doesn't show many signs of strength. That being said, there are a few hands that he could do this with that I could see that we are behind, like maybe ace 9 or ace 10, as well as a couple pocket pairs like deuces through 7s. But even against those hands, we are flipping, and we already have $175 in there. I think we got to put our max gamble face on. I think he can have plenty of garbage and broadways and random suited connectors here. So we are going to stick it in here. We put in the call, and we see that we're up against pocket 6s. So a good old classic flip. We end on a decision to run it 3 times. So let's head to the runouts. The first runout, we hit an 8 on the river, so that's going to be ours. The second runout, he is going to hold. In the third runout, we turn open-ended. We have the entire world, and the river card is a queen. It gives us a straight. We're going to win 2 out of the 3 of those boards. Just kind of a crazy hand I wanted to go over. The dynamics were a little bit strange. But after this, there wasn't really much action. We actually ended up losing $50 on the live stream. So we are going to jump right into the first hand post-stream. Here we go. We're back to our normal poker vlog setup. And I kid you not, the very first hand, I sit down and I look down at pocket rockets. Pocket aces. Sometimes a live stream will just give you some bad juju, but pretty awesome to wake up with aces the very first hand. We have $600 in our stack in the cutoff, and you guys probably already know Joey by now. He's in the hijack and he raises to $15. We are going to be 3-betting the best hand in poker. I make it $45, and to our surprise, we get a cold caller from the button, and Joey comes along as well. So we're going to go in between 2 opponents to a flop. The flop comes down pretty harmless for us, 4-3-3 with 2 hearts. Pocket aces are going to be the best hand here 98% of the time. I don't expect our opponents to have many 3s in their range. The only one would really be ace 3 suited, and we block ace 3 of spades. That only leaves 1 combo left, being the diamond variety. So when Joey checks it over to me, we are going to bet out here for $50. There's plenty we could get value from. Flush draws, straight draws, definitely lower pocket pairs like 8s or 7s. When the button puts in the call, it makes me think he's going to have one of those pairs. A lot of times when people cold call 3-bets, they're going to have a hand like pocket 10s, pocket 9s, or pocket 8s. Also, something common that I've seen is definitely suited broadways. So he could have a hand like king, queen of hearts, or queen, jack of hearts. So the button decides to put in the call, and Joey gets out of the way. So we're going to go heads up to a turn card, which comes to the 9 of clubs. Pretty harmless for us. Obviously, now we lose to one of those hands that we just mentioned, being pocket 9s. But there's plenty of other hands our opponent could have that we're still beating. Absolutely going to go for a bet here, but the question is how much. The opponent roughly has about $415 or so left behind. There's $240 in the middle, so I think a half pot bet here would set up a beautiful sized all-in on the river. So we decided to do something of that nature and bet out for $135. Waiting to see what the button will do, he decides to stick in an equal amount of chips. That's a call, so we're going to go off to a river card. When he puts in the call here, it definitely makes me think that he's going to have a pair. It seems likely he will have pocket 10s, pocket jacks, pocket 8s, pocket 7s, something like that. Hopefully not pocket 9s. When the river card comes to the 9 of hearts, it's an interesting card for this board because obviously it's great and makes pocket 9s way less likely, but the front door flush draw also completes, and we do not hold the ace of hearts. What does that mean? It means that if we had the ace of hearts, we would block a lot more flushes in his range. He could have ace jack of hearts, ace 10 of hearts. Obviously, like we mentioned earlier, it's possible he could have king queen of hearts, queen jack of hearts, queen 10 of hearts, and now that would have us beat. But for some reason, I'm getting the feel that he had a pair on the turn, like pocket 10s or pocket jacks, and I'm not too sure if just a naked flush draw would call on the turn there, especially with the board being paired. Like I mentioned, we set up the turn to go for a shove on the river. He has about half pot, and I think we just got to stick it in here. I think there's much more value to be had. If I check and he shoves, I'm not going to be folding, so we might as well get value from those lower pairs that would most likely check back. So that's what we are going to do. We say the words all in and we're going to hear a signature line from one of my favorite dealers here at Poker House, King. Here it is.
All right, got a jump.
Every time somebody goes all in here at Poker House, King says that, and it's absolutely amazing. One of my favorite parts about playing here. But my other favorite part is not getting snap called. As soon as we don't get called within the first 10 seconds, we know that we have the best hand, meaning we want to see a call here. He goes into the tank for a minute or two before making a decision on a call. He sticks in the call. We show pocket aces, and we are going to scoop this pot after he mucks. Very glad we decided to go for the shove there and get maximum value. We never got to see what he had, but I would assume it was a pair like I was saying. So a pretty awesome first hand post stream. We ran card dead the whole stream, and the first time back we get nearly a double up. Absolutely love to see it. Let's go. Always got to get a nice video of the stack in between hands. It looks magnificent. And there's our buddy Joe. He said last hand he had 6-9 suited, and he almost called the flop. If he called the flop with 6-9 and went runner, runner, full house, I probably would have got up and left. Moving on to the next hand, we look down at pocket eights. $10 straddle is on this hand. Again, this is a private game. Usually the 1-2 games here in Poker House Dallas would only be a $5 straddle. But this is the game from the live stream that had the unlimited straddle, so we moved that game over to the private room, and we can do unlimited under the gun straddles. So for this one, the $10 straddle is on, and we raise it up to $35 here to get called by my buddy Eddie, aka the Asian Sensation, in the $10 straddle. So we're gonna go heads up in position against Eddie, who's a very good player, hoping to find an 8 on the flop, and that's what we do. King, Jack, 8 with 2 clubs. We flop bottom set. Absolutely love to see it. He checks it over to me, and we're definitely going to go for a bet here. Not the board we want to slow play. There's plenty of draws and pairs we can get value from. So we're going to continue with a small bet of $25, and Eddie thinks that's a good price too. He sticks in the call. Now to a turn card, which is the King of Diamonds, improving us to a full house. Now we're not worried about any of those draws, but to our surprise, he decides to lead into us here for $55. Now we have the option to either raise or call. Honestly, I think both are fine, raise or call. Since it's such a small bet, I think that a raise would be fine, and I think I probably would prefer that to build the size of the pot, but I think a call is okay too. So that's what I do in the moment. I decide to just stick in the call. We are in position on the hand, which always makes slow playing easier for us. And we're going off to a river card, which is a blank 4 spades. Now he decides to go with another small sizing of $85. And here is where we pump in the money. We're going to raise, but the question is how much? If he has a king, it's going to be very difficult to fold to any raise here. Plus, every single draw missed, like queen 10, 10-9, clubs. So when we get to the river with those missed draws, sometimes we are going to want to bluff every once in a while. That's the thing I love about poker. You could bet the same amount and have the nuts or have absolutely nothing. But right here, we practically have the nuts. If we get shoved on, I'll probably throw up in my mouth. But let's focus on this raise right now. I pump it up to $235, to which Eddie thinks about it for a little while before putting in the call. We are going to show him that we have a full house, and he flashes us a king before mucking his cards. Things are going really well for us post-stream in this game so far. I love when you make a hand and you get max value. Absolutely incredible. The first 2 hands post-stream have been in our favor, to say the least. We're going to move on to the next one, where we are on the $10 straddle with King 5 of hearts. The button raises it up to $30 and then folds around to me. Definitely going to be defending this one, so that's what I do. And we're going to go heads up to a flop, which is 5-3-3 with 2 clubs and a heart. Pretty decent flop for our hand, flopping top pair. I could lead every once in a while on this board, but I decided to check it over to my opponent, who bets out for $21. And now I think our hand definitely needs some protection. I think a check raise is in order. So that's what I do. I raise it up to $65. We have backdoor flush draw. We have top pair. Seems like a very reasonable play. The button decides to come along and see a turn card, which is another good one for us. It's the 6 of hearts. Not a very scary overcard for our 5, and it improves us to a flush draw. So I'm going to continue to put money in the middle here. I bet out for $85, and the button once again decides to stick in the call. The river card now is another good one for us. It's the King of Diamonds, improving us to 2 pair. The thing about this card is it's technically going to be way better for our opponent. At this stage of the hand, I'm not sure how much of a factor that really is. I probably should just be betting out here and getting value, but I decided to play it a little tricky. This card might make him want to bluff. There's plenty of missed draws that he might want to bluff the river with. And this is a player who definitely likes to blast off. So I check it over to my opponent, getting a little sneaky on the river, but unfortunately, he checks it back. We show, and we are going to scoop this one. Not sure if a bet would have gotten called, but either way, we're not complaining. We're scooping in a nearly $400 pot. Let's go. We play a couple of PLO bomb pots here. We scoop one board with Broadway in a 3-way all in, and our stack is building like a castle. And the 7-deuce game is on as well. I 3-bet a button open to $135 and get that through. We show the table. Everybody pays us $10. Things are just going our way. Unfortunately, this table breaks after a little while. A total profit of $1,415. That is a big win. There's still a lot more to go over with this vlog because the next day we head over to Poker House for a 12-hour session. It's absolutely insane, and here's how it starts. Ace, queen, offsuit, on the straddle, under the gun, +1 raises it up to $15, and the low jack 3 bets to $45. And the action gets back over to me. Ace, queen, offsuit here is going to be a fold or a 4-bet, and I've been playing relatively tight to this point, haven't played a hand the first 30 to 45 minutes of the game, so I wanted to take advantage of my image a little bit here, and I go for the aggressive route. I 4-bet to $155. The +1 quickly folds, and the action goes to the low jack. He is deep in the tank, and he looks really uncomfortable. He tanks pre-flop for about 2 minutes before deciding to fold. We get one through, and he kept trying to ask me what I had. He seemed like he made a really big fold. Somebody at the table said I had ace queen, and he told us that he beat ace queen. So I assume that he had a hand like pocket tens or pocket jacks. I don't think he's ever going to fold ace king there, but it's nice to get one through on the first hand of the game. Sometimes when you're running card dead, you can take advantage of your image, and that's exactly what we just did here. Quick announcement, guys. I have been playing a lot online. If you guys are looking for somewhere to play, come play with me on Club GG. 24/7 cash games and tournaments. Action is amazing. It's super fun if you're a beginner or if you're advanced. So click the link in the description. I hope I see you on the tables. Moving right along to the next one, we have 9-7 of clubs. The under the gun player raises it up to $6. This is definitely an active player. He's raising a lot of hands, and he's playing a lot of pots. There's 3 callers over to me. We can definitely complete here, but I don't really feel like playing a 5-way pot out of position. So I get a little spicy here. Go for the good old 3-bet. And because it was only a $6 raise, I make it $40 to go. Definitely could even be going bigger with 3 callers in between. Either way, I made it $40, and we only get called by the original raiser under the gun. So this is what we were looking for. We were either looking to take it down or go heads up, and we're going to have to play some post-flop poker. The flop comes queen 5-3 rainbow with a club. An absolute whiff for us. We have a decently strong range here, 3-betting from the big blind. We definitely could have completed with a lot of different hands, and the majority of the population would not be 3-betting 9-7 suited here. They would only be 3-betting the very top of their range because they just have the option to put $4 more in and see a flop. But that's not how we roll. We have plenty of backdoor draws on this flop. Backdoor flush draw. Any 6, 8, or 4 will improve us to a straight draw. So we're going to fire out a small c-bet here on a dry board like this. I'd probably do this with a lot of my range here. I make it $25 to go, but I don't really expect the under the gun to fold to this too often, as I would assume he does not. He puts in the call, and we're going to go off to a turn, which is the 5 of clubs. It improves us to a flush draw, and you know what that means. We are going to barrel this card. We only have 9 high. When we bet here, we want to fold out any ace high hand or a lower pair like pocket 8s or pocket 7s, but it's a really good card for us to barrel on. If we had a hand like ace queen, aces, kings, which we very well could have in this spot, we would definitely keep betting here on the turn. So that's what I do. I put out a decent sized bet for $110, hoping to get this through, but if we get called, we're probably going to have to barrel off the river depending on what it comes. Or maybe we can bink it and hit the flush. But after a while of thinking, under the gun player decides to put in the call. So we've put ourselves in quite a spot here. Can we bink the club one time? The river card is the ace of clubs. We backdoor ourselves into the flush. This is unbelievable. This player has the entire table covered, and I have about $440 left in my stack. If we didn't hit our flush, we probably would have to jam here as a bluff as well. We didn't 3-bet pre-flop, bet flop, bet turn to just check when we miss on the river. That's the beauty about barreling a draw like this, though. You want to put your opponents in a polar spot on the river, especially when you drill it. So that's what I do. We're going to risk all of our chips here. $440 are going into the middle, and he goes deep into the tank here. Maybe he hit the ace on the river, or maybe he has a queen and he's deliberating a hero call here. Seems like we're really putting him in a tough spot, but in the end, he decides to stick in the chips. We show him the dirty flush backdoor. He does not look too stoked, and he flashes us the ace deuce before mucking his cards. He was calling us down with ace high and a gut shot, and he was right. The river card was perfect. It gave him top pair and us the flush. Absolute madness here at Poker House, and we're going to move right along to the next hand. We look down at the beautiful ace king of hearts in the low jack. There's a middle position limp to me, and I'm going to raise it up to $25 to get called by the hijack in middle position player. So we're going to go in between 2 opponents to a flop, which is king high, king 6-5 rainbow. A great flop for our hand. We have top, and we're feeling great about it. The middle position player checks to me. I think sometimes checking here could be fine as well to disguise our hand. The board is pretty dry. There's a couple of straight draws, but other than that, there's not really too much to worry about for us. But in the moment, I decided on a small c-bet, which is fine too. I make it $25, and we get called in both spots, the hijack and middle position. So now we see a turn card, which is the 8 of hearts. It connects the board a little bit, could be a little scary, but not too bad in my eyes. You never know, though. They could definitely have the 7-4 or the 9-7. We are in Dallas, Texas, and you have to expect the unexpected. But when the middle position player checks to me, this seems like it's going to be a better card for my opponents. So I decide to get a little bit tricky here and check. I think I would prefer a bet here. We don't want to give any free card to a 7 or a 9, but I decided to get tricky and check. And the hijack checks it back. I'm hoping for a clean river, and that's what we get in the 3 of diamonds. Now, we'll probably have the best hand here almost always when it checks through on the turn. 3 shouldn't change anything about the hand. So when the middle position player checks to me, we are going to be betting, targeting a worse king or maybe a lower pair, trying to hero call me. My line does look pretty weak. Bet small, check turn. And now we're going to bet the river. I make it $80 to go. And the hijack looks like a non-believer. He sticks in the call. The middle position player folds. We show him that we got top and got a little tricky with it. And he mucks his cards, and we are going to scoop that pot. The check on the turn probably got us paid off. I'm not kidding here. The very next hand, next shuffle, next deal, we have pocket aces. We were running hot, getting premiums. Everything has gone right for us, not only in the last session last night, but this session as well. Pocket aces here. I raise it up to $20, and we are going to get 4 players to put in the call. Not really what we wanted to see. Don't love going 5 ways with pocket aces, but you got to do what you got to do, and we're going to go to a flop, which is 3-5-9 rainbow. Pretty harmless to say the least. So when the action checks to me, I'm going to put out a bet a little under half pot for $45. Surprisingly, the action folds to the player on my right. He does not decide to fold. He puts in the call, so that's pretty relieving to see going heads up to a turn, which is the 5 of diamonds. Obviously would hate to see my opponent have a 5 here, but it also decreases a hand like pocket 5s, which is good, but it's not too necessary because I think my opponent would probably raise the flop with that. When he checks it over to me here, we are going to continue getting value from top pair, or maybe a couple lower pairs that just don't believe me. So I bet out for $75 here, and the low jack quickly throws in 3 green chips. That's a call to the river card, which is the 10 of clubs. Pretty harmless for us, shouldn't change anything about the hand. When he checks it over to me, we have to go for another street of value here, but I don't think we need to bet too big. It's likely that our opponent is going to have a 9 here, and I don't think he's going to call off a huge bet with a 9. We want to kind of bet small and get value, so that's what I do. I make a smaller bet of $90, and the low jack does look pretty uncomfortable, but he decides to throw in the chips. We've been getting all the calls today. We show him that we got 2 aces in our hand, and he mucks his cards. The run good has not stopped for us, and hopefully it doesn't stop anytime soon. And the next one I'm going to quickly go over. We get ace-king all-in pre-flop for about a $1,000 pot against pocket kings. He asks if we want to run it twice, and I say sure. We spike an ace on the first board, but we lose the second one, and we're going to chop that pot up. Moving on to the next hand, we have 9-8 of diamonds in the small blind. There's 2 limps over to me, and I'm going to be raising it up here to $35. And we get 2 customers from the big blind and middle position. The flop gives us top pair, but it's quite a wet board. 8-6-5 all spades. We have top pair, but there's so many other hands that have us beat right now. I don't want to bet our top pair into our opponents and then get raised. Typically, this board is going to favor them a lot more than me, so I decide to start with a check. The big blind checks it over to the middle position player who bets out for $25. It's under a quarter the size of the pot. We have top pair. We're definitely not going to fold, but the question is, do we want to raise to protect our hand? I think just calling is probably the best way to go. We don't want to inflate the pot with a weak top pair on such a dynamic board. In the moment, I decided to raise it up to $80. Like I mentioned, I don't really love this play, but the big blind folds and the middle position puts in the call. There's just so many bad turn cards that we can't really continue on, and now the pot is getting pretty big, but the turn card is an interesting one. It's the 9 of clubs, improving us to top 2 pair, but any 7 is going to make a straight here, and it could be likely our opponent had like a pair plus flush draw with the 7. I think this is probably going to be an easy check for us, but I decided to go for a really small bet of $55. It's about 20% the size of the pot. We kind of found ourselves in a tough spot here. If we get raised, we're going to have to fold. This whole hand is pretty strange, but lucky for us, the middle position just sticks in the call. We still might have the worst hand. I'm not sure where we're at. The river card is the 10 of diamonds. Happy to not see a spade, but I check it over to the middle position player who decides to check back. We show our 2 pair, and he says, "You're good." Not really sure how I played that one, but happy to see the chips coming my way. Moving on to the next hand, we have Queen Jack of Hearts on the button straddle. If you straddle on the button, you get ultimate last action here at Poker House Dallas. The hijack raises to $15, and the small blind puts in the call. Could be a nice little squeeze spot here with queen jack suited, but I decided to take a flop in position and just stick in the call this time. The flop comes pretty good for us. Queen, queen, 3 rainbow. We flop 3 of a kind on a very, very dry board. And the action is going to start by checking over to me. Like I mentioned, the board is extremely dry. It's going to be difficult to get value from any hands here. There's only 1 queen left in the deck, and it's unlikely that our opponents are going to have it. So I decided to get a little tricky here and slow play. Check it back. To a turn card we go, which is the 10 of spades. I think this is a great card because it could be likely our opponent's connected with this. Jack 9 has a straight draw, King Jack, there's a flush draw, and if our opponents have a 10, they're going to feel pretty good when the action on the flop checks around. The small blind checks, and the hijack now bets out for $25. It's about the third the size of the pot. Against a bet this small, I don't mind going for a raise here. Like I mentioned, there's plenty of draws I would probably call a raise. So I decided to put more money in the middle here, and I raised to a little bit of a smaller size. I make it $70 to go. The small blind folds, but the hijack decides to come along. Now to the river, which is the 9 of diamonds. The only draw that completes would be King Jack. We do have a jack in our hand, which blocks a few combos of that, which is good. When he checks it over to me, we are not going to be checking back. We want to try to get a call here from a pair, and we want to make it look like we had a misdraw on the turn. So I put out a chunky sized bet of $135. The hijack doesn't take too long before mucking his cards. We don't get paid off this time, but I'm not complaining because we've been paid off plenty of other times this session. Still nice to scoop in a pot. In the next one, we have Jack 9 of diamonds in the small blind. There's a button straddle, and the hijack makes it $15 to go. The cutoff puts in the call, and facing 2 late position opens here, Jack 9 suited, we are going to 3-bet. Put on the pressure here. I 3-bet it up to $70. We get looked up by 1 player in the hijack. So we're going to go heads up to a flop, which comes extremely dry. Queen 7 deuce rainbow, yuck. This is kind of similar to that hand where we had 9-7 of clubs earlier. Extremely dry flop. We have plenty of backdoor draws. We have a backdoor flush draw and some straight draws as well. So we're going to fire out a c-bet here. I make it a third the size of the pot for $50. Our opponent is going to have a lot of auto folds on this board, and currently holding jack high, we're going to benefit a lot from that. But he doesn't go away that quickly. He sticks in the call, and we're going to go off to a turn card, which gives us some equity. It's the 3 of diamonds, improving us to a flush draw here. And just like that hand before with 9-7 of clubs, we are going to barrel. We want to try to fold out hands that are beating us right now, and we may have to bluff the river if it comes to it. So we stick to the plan. When we bet flop and we get a card like that on the turn, we're going to bet. So I make it $155. I'd prefer a little bit of a larger size, like almost pot for $250. But in the moment, I just decided to go $150. And we love to see it when he folds his cards. We don't have to see a river card. We just take down the pot right now. Best case scenario for us. And this just shows you that aggression is very powerful in poker. There's another small all-in pre-flop. We have pocket eights. We raise it up to $20 and somebody shoves for like $60. We put in the call and we lose a flip against ace king. Nothing big, but I thought I should mention it. Moving on to the next interesting hand, we have Jack 10 of hearts in the cutoff. The middle position player limps and I raise it up to $25. We get 2 callers, one from the button and one from middle position. So 3 ways to a flop, which is 10-9-8 rainbow with a heart. We flop top pair with an open-ended straight draw as well as a backdoor flush draw. So when the middle position player checks to me, I think my range would probably prefer to check on this board, but I have such a good hand right now, so much equity, I decided to start putting money in the middle. I bet about half pot for $35, and we just get a call from the button player. So now we're going to go heads up to a turn card, which is an interesting one. It's the 9 of hearts. It improves us to an open-ended straight flush draw. Obviously, now we lose to a 9, but we still have top pair, which is decently strong. So I'm going to continue betting. Our opponent only has about $160 left in his stack. I could just put it all in here, but I don't think we're going to get called by a worse hand. So I decided to put out a small bet for $55, but our opponent does want to risk all of his chips. He jams all in for $160. Now it feels like we might be behind, but we have so much equity, we can't fold for $100 more, so I stick in the call. And sure enough, he shows us 9-5 of diamonds. So he turn trips. We have a lot of outs. Any queen, 7, 10, or heart will give us the best hand to the river card, which is the king of clubs. We do not improve, and we're going to lose this one. So nice hand to the button. And let's keep rolling through these hands because we still have quite a few more to go over. Like I mentioned, this was a 12-hour session, but we came to Dallas, Texas to grind, so that's what we're going to do. We take a look down at ace king of clubs. Beautiful looking hand here. I'm on the hijack and the early position player limps. The middle position player raises it up to $20. Ace king suited is going to be 3-bet 100% of the time in my book. So I make it $60 to go. And to my surprise, the early position limper calls and the middle position player calls. So 3 ways is not really what we were looking for, but we are in position. The flop is not really what we're looking for either. It's 8-7-4 with 2 diamonds and a club. We have ace high and a backdoor flush draw here. The action checks over to me. I definitely could just check back here and see a turn card, but we were the aggressor pre-flop. We 3-bet, so that means we have all the overpairs in our range, where our opponents in early position and middle position would most likely 4-bet us with those bigger pairs. We're going to try to rep like we have aces, kings, queens, jacks, tens. So what would we do with those hands? We would bet. So I put out a bet of $75. That gets the early position player out of the way, but middle position does not go away so easily. He sticks in the call. So here we are again, blasting off our stack. We're going to have to navigate through this one. The turn card is the 10 of hearts. It's not a great card for us. Obviously, it gives us no more equity, but a hand like 10-9 now makes top pair. I also kind of like the fact that we don't have any diamonds in our hand. It makes it more likely our opponent could be on a draw and might fold to a big bet. So when he checks it to me, if we had aces or kings, we would definitely bet here on the turn. And I'd prefer a bet of like $300, putting on the max pressure. But in the moment, I definitely made a mistake and only bet $120. Another small bet here on the turn doesn't really accomplish anything. I think you should either check back or bet big. We either want to give up or we want to put max pressure on. This $120 bet is pretty useless. We're just throwing money in the garbage. For this price, our opponent decides to come along, leading us to a river card, which is the 5 of diamonds. It completes the front door flush draw, and any 6 is going to have a straight here. Our opponent could have a hand like 9-10 suited, or pocket 9s, or 9-8. Obviously, the front door flush completes and we don't have any diamonds is not ideal for us, but he does check it over to me, and I do think that he could be checking some flushes sometimes, but I think the majority of the population would probably lead the river, and we just have ace high here, and I don't think we're ever really going to win. If he has a hand like 9-8 or pocket 9s, I think a bet would probably get him to fold. I don't think he's going to have too many 6s in his range, unless he had a suited connector like 5-6 suited or 7-6 suited, but 5-6 suited flopped the straight, and I assume that he'd probably raise on the flop. We're going to try to win this pot without showdown, so I bet out for $220. Again, this is a pretty weak bet. It's not even half pot. We got to put max pressure on if we want him to fold a big hand. So I think I played this hand quite poorly, and he puts in the call. We show him that we have ace high, and he shows us the 7-6 of spades. The river card gave him a straight. I think he probably would have folded if the 5 didn't come on the river. Either way, like I mentioned, I think I played this one poorly. But in poker, we got to learn from our mistakes, and next time I'll know, don't bet when your opponent has a straight. We're still well in the green on this session. Things are going pretty good. We lost a few recent ones, but that's how poker goes. Up and down, up and down. It's one long session. In the next one, we look down at a beautiful suited connector, 5-6 of hearts. We're under the gun, and I raise it up to $20. We get 4 callers here, 5 ways to a flop, looking to flop a big draw or a straight or something juicy with a suited connector, and that's what we get. It's 7 for deuce rainbow. We flop an open-ended straight draw and a backdoor flush draw. The action is going to start on me, and I think I'm going to start with a check on this board. I could go for some check raises here on the flop, but I just want to see what my opponents should do. Obviously, I'm never going to be folding. We're open-ended to the nuts. So I check it over to my opponents, and the action is going to check around. So we're going to get to see a turn card, which is the ace of clubs. Doesn't improve our hand, but it definitely is good for our range. When we open under the gun, we're going to be basically the only one in this hand that can have ace king and ace queen. So for those reasons, when it checks to me, I decide to throw out a bet here of $40. It'll definitely allow us to bluff the river if we miss our draw. So I bet out for 40, and the player in the +1 puts in the call. He's the only one to do so, so we're going to go heads up to a river card, which is the 3 of diamonds. We drill it. We have the nuts. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's go. And even better, any 5 is going to make a straight. If our opponent has a 5, he's definitely going to pay us off, maybe even raise us. And I'm hoping he has a hand like top pair, maybe even 2 pair. So there's $180 in the middle. I bet out for $130, and he snap calls. We show him that we have the cojones, the nuts. He's not going to win this pot, so he mucks his cards, and he told me that he would have called any bet. So we could have gotten greedy on the river and shoved like 3x pot or something. But not too mad, scooping in a $440 pot. All right, we're going to move on to the next hand. I can't get enough of these suited gappers, man. 10-8 of hearts. We're in the hijack, and the low jack raises it up to $15. Definitely going to mix in between 3-betting and calling here. You guys know me. I decided to go for the aggressive route and 3-bet to $45. We get a cold call from the button player, and the low jack comes along as well. So once again, in between 2 opponents going to a flop, which is king 10-7 with 2 spades. We flop middle pair and a couple of backdoor draws. When the low jack checks to me, I think checking or betting is fine. I think out of position to the button, I'd prefer a check, but in the moment I decided to do another small bet of $45, to which the button decided to put all of his chips in the middle for $120. The low jack folds. It's only about $80 more to call. There's a countless amount of straight draws and flush draws out there, so I think on this wide of a board, we have to stick in the call. So that's what I do, and we're going to go off to a run out, which is the king of hearts. A pretty good card. It makes it less likely our opponent would have one. In the river card comes the Jack of Clubs, not great, but our opponent lets us know that he has a full house, King Jack. So we were drawing slim on the flop and we were dead on the turn. Nice hand, man. We are going to move on to the next one. Ace 7 offsuit here on the big blind. There's a $5 button straddle and the action folds to the small blind. He puts in the call. I decide to see a flop as well, and the button straddle checks his option. We're going to a flop which is ace high, ace 10 deuce with 2 clubs. When the small blind checks, I'm definitely going to bet my top pair. I make it $5 to go. I know, $5. The button folds, but the small blind comes along. The turn card is the 3 of hearts, and the small blind checks to me. We're probably going to have the best hand with top pair here a lot. It was a limped pot, so I throw out a bet of $15. The small blind thinks it should be more, and he raises to 45. Definitely don't love to see that. Our kicker isn't great, but it is a limped pot, so the small blind isn't going to have too many strong aces in his range. Like I mentioned, I think top pair could be the best hand. There's a few draws out there, so I think we got to stick in the call here and see a river card. That's what I do. We're going off to a river, which is the 7 of diamonds, a bink card for us. We drilled 2 pair on the river. Now we're not really worried about anything, maybe 5-4, but if he has 5-4, good for him. He's getting my money. He bets out for $55, and we're definitely going to be putting more than that in the middle. We're going to try to get called by an ace or maybe a lower 2 pair. If he decides to re-raise me here, we could probably find the fold because it's going to be almost always a straight or a set. So I raise it up to $165, and immediately he looks uncomfortable. That's good news for us. Now we're praying for a call, and our prayers get answered. He sticks in the call. We show him that we river 2 pair, and he flashes us the ace deuce. He flopped 2 pair, and we got him on the river. Poker is a sick game. We are going to move on to the last hand of the night. We look down at ace 10 offsuit under the gun. It's probably a fold, but guess what? I don't really like folding, so I raise it up to $20, and we get a call from the button in big blind. Going to a 10 high flop, which is 10-7-3 with 2 spades. Great flop for us. We flop top pair, top kicker. When the big blind checks to me, our hand probably needs quite a bit of protection, so I bet a little bit bigger for half pot. $30 goes in the middle, but both players think that's a good price to continue. They both put in the call. Turn card now comes the 4 of diamonds. It should be a brick. 5-6 now makes a straight, but that's going to be unlikely. So when the big blind checks over to me, we still have top pair, top kicker. We're going to be putting more money in the middle. I throw out a bet of $90, and the action gets over to the button. He thinks about it for a little while before making his decision to go all in. Pretty gross spot. $360 is the shove. When the big blind folds, the action is on me. We have a really strong hand, but obviously he's repping a hand like 2 pair, a set, or a straight. We've seen this guy get out of line a couple times before, and I don't know, just flatting the flop. The 4 didn't really change too much. He's not really making too much sense here. He did defend the button straddle, so he could have a hand like 7-4 or 3-4, but I think that there's more bluffs in his range. He could have a hand like ace-5 of spades that turned a combo draw, and he wants to turn it to a bluff. So in the end, I decide to stick in the call, and we're going to go off to a river card, which is the 10 of hearts. Hopefully that gives us the best hand. I look over at my opponent, and he does not look too happy about that river card. So I show him ace 10, and he shows us the good old 3-4 offsuit. So he did turn 2 pair, and once again, we sucked out on the river. I don't even know if I'm playing good poker anymore. I'm just calling people down and sucking out, man. Pretty disgusting hand, and we're going to end the night with a win. We were into that game for $500, and we cashed out for $1,765. That's a profit of $1,265. The last couple of days have been insane here in Texas, man. I really appreciate you guys watching all these videos. Feel free to click that subscribe button if you like the content, and I'm going to be pumping out vlogs a lot more. I'll see you guys in the next one.